At $200, a Super Nintendo setup costs twice as much as the old system. For the money, the company promises better pictures, sound, and adventure. Now you're playing with power, superpower. You're the king, I tell you! The king!
Only for Super NES.
Only on Super NES.
You're listening to the SNES podcast with your host, Soulblazer.
Hello, everybody. This is Super NES Podcast, episode number 270 this time around. As always, I am Greg. He is Joe.
Hello.
And again, we're covering a game that we initially had thought about doing perhaps in our recent Bad Games podcast about. I said recently, Joe, but I think actually it's been about 6 months or so since we actually recorded that podcast. So it's been a while, but I think this is the last game we're covering that we initially were considering for the inclusion in the episode. So this is the last time that you heard brought it come up. So anyway, we are looking at the Where's Waldo game that came out of Super NES. More specifically, the game is called The Great Waldo Search. Which shares its name the third book in the Waldo series that got released in North America. And this game also came out for the NES and Genesis, which we'll cover on here briefly. So Where's Waldo was a pretty big cultural phenomenon for a while. Even though I hadn't played this game specifically, I have played the NES game a little bit as a kid. I think, Joe, you said that you would play that one also.
Yeah, I played that one.
But neither one of us had played this one, like I remember you saying.
Correct.
So, I was a little bit old for Where's Waldo, I think, and honestly, that kind of puzzle finding stuff, I always was pretty crap at. So, I never really paid much attention to it, but I was definitely aware of it going on during its peak. So I'm like, well, I think it was so. So it's like, I think it's enough meat here to warrant giving this its own episode. So anyway, I just talked about my own limited experience with Where's Waldo. I've seen some of the cartoons. I am of course familiar with all the pop culture of appearances and memes and parodies and whatever have been made of it over the years. You're a bit younger than I am, Joe. Do you have any direct experience with the books
Oh yeah.
Some TV shows?
So Where's Waldo was made for me. I was a kid of the 80s, a proud kid who had a highlights subscription that my grandmother would pay for every year. So, in those books, there's always a search and find kind of puzzle, usually numerous ones, but so when Where's Waldo came out in 1987, I remember I was like first, maybe going into second grade, I want to say. And, that was my introduction to the Scholastic Book Club. And obviously, Where's Waldo was the book that year. I think I picked up that book and junior novelization of Superman 4. So that tells you where my mindset was at that time.
That movie got turned into a book?
Yeah. It's one of those. Remember back in the day, they used to release those little pocket novels.
I remember
pictures and everything. That was how I had to experience most of those movies because, we're a family of 5. So going to the movies
for some of the franchises for sure, like Star Wars, but
it's
it's like that's a weird movie to include for that because that was not a good movie.
Well, but the Superman franchise was hyped at that time,
Yeah, I guess,
but yeah, so those were the 2 books I got that year, even more recently, I picked up. They turned them almost into pocket books. But a little bigger and I have essentially every Where's Waldo book condensed into those 2 volumes, which is super fun to go back to. The NES game, a friend of mine had it, and I asked to borrow it, and worst experience of my NES life, because I didn't have like X-Men or anything else that was really bad compared to it. And games like Predator and even Narc, as difficult as they were, those were the games I had. Like, I didn't have a choice. I had to play those over and over again and get good at them. So, so I didn't see those as bad games. I can look back now and I can say, yes, those were bad games. But, at the time, I didn't see it that way. Where's Waldo is my childhood for sure. And I will admit, I have not played, well, up until obviously for this podcast, I had not played the Super NES version. I did not own the Genesis version back in the day because the NES version was such a horrible experience that I completely was like, nope, not touching another Waldo game.
Yeah, I agree. The NES game was really not. Was not the. It really wasn't like all that good. There actually were a lot of Where's Waldo games published also, by the way, past this one. So
yeah.
But anyway, so for those of you who may not be too familiar with the franchise, I'll dive into the history and phenomena of it for a little bit. If you were not around during that time period in the 90s, 2000s, whenever it was at its peak. The actual franchise was invented by a British guy named Martin Hanford in 1985. He named it like Where's Wally. They renamed it to Where's Waldo for North America. I couldn't find out why they renamed it, but maybe they felt that the Waldo would land more solidly over here than Wally would. So, but the first book came out in 1987, and things were pretty much off running after that point. The idea is pretty simple. You have this this very comical-looking chap like named Waldo with a striped shirt, blue jeans, a hat, glasses, a stupid grin, who is hidden somewhere in a picture, and the challenge to find it. It's pretty simple. This kind of puzzle finding thing mechanic been around before in the past, but what made this so successful, I think, was because it's it's very charming. The artwork was very good. There was a wide variety of backgrounds, settings, features, whatever, to at least have people fresh and interesting some. And there were, and it went beyond the book to other forms of media. So it drew upon it also helped its appeal because it was available in different flavors, different formats. It would also help to expand its fan base, to a large degree, I think. So, and apparently, answering complaints that he was kind of easy to find in the first book, he got harder and harder to find in subsequent books. Yeah. So, it's kind of like if you were at the right age, when you was a little kid starting out the first book, then the rise and challenge for you as you got older was definitely probably appreciated.
Yeah.
Anyway, as I mentioned before, his main vehicle was books. There were 7 books published altogether. The last one came out in 2009. There also were other Where's Waldo books of different sorts, like fact books, stickers, poster books, etc., etc. So activity books, that kind of stuff. Most of those books are now most of the books are now out of print. There are special editions. Special editions of most of those books are a bookstore around which you can find as well. So there also was a comic strip for a while in the 90s. And there was 2 television shows based upon Where's Waldo. The original one was on CBS for 1991 for 13 episodes. And they brought it back 2019 by DreamWorks, which aired on Universal Kids, which also lasted for I think it was 2 seasons that lasted because it moved to Peacock eventually.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, 2 seasons. So there were plans for a film several times, but that project really seems to be like development hell these days. So I don't think that will ever develop. And as we mentioned before, there were a bunch of video games made off the Where's Waldo franchise. We've already talked about the NES game, 1991, which is first, and then it was this game. Later on, you also had an arcade game developed by Sega, which was Japan only. And in the following year, 93, you also had, you had another Japan-only title published by Tomy. Then there was 2 PC games, and then there was a game in 2009, The Fantastic Journey, which is available on PC, Mac, Wii, DS, iPhone, and some other phones. Followed by 2 other phone-only games in 2010, 2015. So. Probably The Fantastic Journey was the last really big name Waldo game made, since the other ones after that were just like iPhone games pretty much. So the franchise has been pretty quiet in recent years. Like I said before, the second TV show ended in 2020. Special editions of some books came out in 2022. That's pretty much been it since then. I definitely don't want to say the franchise is dead, because the artist is still alive and well and kicking. So it very well may make a revival again later on, but it's definitely in a dormant state for sure. So I mean, like I said before, you can still find the books available if you want to. The shows are available. The shows are available like online. The games can be easily found through emulation, whatever. So you definitely can sort of see, even though fresh material may not be made anymore, there's certainly still enough out there done over the years to keep you busy for like quite a long time. Like if you have like if you have a kid who's of the right age and temperament for it. It's pretty much a crapshoot at this point if it comes back again. Like I said before, I don't want to call it dead, because it was activity just as activity on just as like a few years ago. But I wouldn't blame the I wouldn't blame the author if he decided that he was done with it and wanted to move on to and move on to other things. So. Yeah. I'm not really sure what's going to happen. I'm not really sure what's going to happen here. But yeah, for a while in the 90s, 2000s, this really was a very, very popular culture phenomenon that sold very well. Mm-hmm. So the video game kind of operates the same way that video games really kind of operate the same way the books do. Is the best way to describe it. The game was published by. So the game was published again by THQ, who also published the NES game, because they're the ones who had the rights for the Waldo media properties of the time period. It was developed by this title was developed for all 3 systems by a very small company called Radiance. There's not very much information. There's not very much information available for them online because they didn't do very much. Their first game appears to be a fairly obscure but apparently pretty well reviewed early release game of the TurboGrafx 16 in 1989 called Sidearms, which is like a side-scrolling shooter game. So then after the Great Waldo search, they also made another game for the NES this time, which also came out in 1993. Called Rollerblade Racer, which is a game I never heard of. Taking advantage of the rollerblade phenomenon that was phenomenon that's going on at the time being to make that game. Then they made a licensed tennis game, Andre Agassi Tennis for Super NES, followed by a big jump, and then apparently. They're credited with an iPhone game 2009 and a PC game Beach Volleyball Online 2010. But I kind of wonder if maybe just somebody else bought the rights to the company by that point and just simply used their name to publish the games, because I can't see a company being around that quiet for 15 years. Like I said, information in the company is very hard to come by. So they were not a very big successful company. They were also developing apparently California Raisins game for the NES and NES 90s as well too, which got canceled and never got released. So it looks like altogether, besides the Great Waldo search, they published 3 other games for various systems. During their short lifespan. But different developer, by the way, than who made the NES game. The NES game was developed by, believe it or not, Bethesda actually developed the NES game. That's how they got their start. They developed. They developed and ported a bunch of games. A lot of big name developers around these days got their start, either making small games or also porting other games and systems. Atlas, that's how they got their start, pretty much. So Bethesda made the original NES game, but Radiance did the Super NES, Genesis, and NES versions, and these all came out in 1992. So anyway, like I said before, you're doing the same thing in the game, pretty much doing the book. You've got scenes. You got to find Waldo. There's a long picture. You can scroll. The controls are simple. They're simple. You have a directional button. The directional buttons control the magnifying glass, and it's used to help find objects. Waldo's dog Wolf also makes an appearance here. By fighting him, you get to play a small bonus game to take points while controlling Wolf on flying carpet. And there's a total of 5 levels in the game. So, did you know, however, Joe, there actually was a remake made to this game?
I did not.
It was 2009, developed by a company called Ludia and published by Ubisoft on iOS, Microsoft Windows, the Wii, and the DS, called Where's Waldo: The Fantastic Journey. It took advantage of motion controllers to allow you to more easily search and navigate around, and also had a multiplayer support.
Oh, interesting.
So, not surprised most people probably haven't heard about that because, the Wii had a lot of shovelware that came out for it, and the DS wasn't. People don't like to say this, but the DS also had a very mixed library. I felt, where it's
100%.
there were a lot of great games on that system, and there's also a lot of crap games. So, the good games can be hard to find, for sure. So, anyway, so now I set everything up, Joe. Let's hear about your experience with this game, and and how you liked it or didn't like it compared to the NES game, which you loathed.
Yeah, so as I stated, I had a horrible time with the NES game, so I was not looking forward to reviewing this game, in all honesty. So I was pleasantly surprised. This game is a lot more competent than what the NES game was. I like the idea that, you have to help Whitebeard collect the 5 scrolls, which gives us our 5 levels. The minigames, as you stated, are a nice way to mix up the action. I found the wolf stages to be pretty, relatively easy. The subway minigame, where you gotta move the pipes and get them connected. You have to collect Waldo's glasses and then a picture of his face as well, while avoiding Whitebeard, which I thought was weird, but whatever. That was an okay minigame as well. Yeah, I mean, it's 5 levels. It's super. It's not easy. I mean, it is and it isn't. So you have normal and then you have expert. Normal gives you a bigger search box, where expert shrinks that down. The biggest issue I had with this game is once you play it, that's it.
True. A lot of games like that, I would like that to be fair. So
right, but I felt like, so for this, with the books, you would have 10 or 15 different things you have to find in that one picture. And I do like the fact that they thankfully, had two screens up and down, up to 4 screens left and right. So it was a pretty big mural that you have to get through to find everything. The constants are, obviously, you have to find Waldo and you have to find the scroll, and then there's usually 4 other things that you have to find. I think with the 4 other things that you would have to find, I would think that there might be like a random component to the game. Unfortunately, that's not what we get here. So once you beat this, it's done. There's just really no replay value, which is honestly kind of upsetting. I feel like they probably could have done it, but then again, I don't know. I don't know if it's a limitation of the size of the cartridge or a limitation of the Super Nintendo itself. But like randomization, I guess, just wasn't a thing. But that being said, it's a pretty decent game overall, just super short. If you know what you're doing, up to 7 minutes to beat the game. And you don't get anything for it. You just get like a little congratulations. No, it's not even a congratulations. It shows your score.
Yeah, the playthrough.
And then it just rolls credits.
The playthrough online is just over 7 minutes long.
Yeah.
So definitely, if you know what you're doing, it's a short game. So I agree mostly with what you said. I do really like the fact there's 2 difficulty settings here, because I think that does kind of help with the younger kids versus like very very young kids. But graphically the game looks great. It definitely has the same art style that the comic books do. The comics.
Absolutely.
The comic book do. The Where's Waldo voice sample is very good. It gets annoying after you hear it a few times, but it is high quality. But it's a pretty high quality voice sample.
Yeah, so I was saving those for those specific parts of the podcast. Yeah. But yes, graphics are good. I thought this was a lot better than obviously what we got on the NES. The detail I thought was done really well. Like you said, especially like there's the one with like the red and blue monks. Stuff. Like, I mean, you can tell, like, they're very well drawn. You can see their expression. It's hilarious. Which is all part of what Where's Waldo was. It was comedic things going on, while you're looking for Waldo. So while you're looking for Waldo, you're coming across these other situations, which was always fun. So amazing. Sound, I agree with you. Voice sample is amazing. Yes, it gets very annoying because you just hear the Great Waldo. The Great Waldo search. The Great Waldo search. And it's like every time you see Whitebeard, so it's like every 2 or 3 minutes through the gameplay. Yeah. And, granted, yes, 7 minutes to completely get through the game. That's if you know what you're doing. So your first playthrough, you're going to hear that a lot.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing I have to bring up is the soundtrack. This game had great music. For this type of game, like, you have to have good music to be able to keep someone engaged and want to play your game, especially with that horrendous voice sample.
I really wasn't expecting the music in this game to be like as good as it was, because I'm like people are not here for that.
Right.
They're here to like do the puzzle challenge and move on with their lives. Yeah. But they actually, somebody actually took the time. Let me shout out the person, Doug Brandon, did the music like this game. He took time to actually compose some very good tracks that, almost kind of a shame that they're locked away in a game that most people are never going to play in their lives.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
But I was surprised how good the music is. I mean, it's like amazing OST quality. No, but it's far better. It's far better than what you expect to find here.
Yeah, absolutely.
The controls, as I said before, the controls are a bit sluggish because you are using the D-pad to move the magnifying glass around. Can't be helped. The remake with the motion controls, the touch controls, I'm sure works much better. But it's fine for what it is. You expect that of games of this type of at a time period. Yep. Of this time. So. And looking at the NES and Genesis versions of the games, all 3 versions of the games are pretty much the same because all in all, this isn't a very complicated game.
Right.
Just that the graphics are tweaked a little bit to take advantage of that system's abilities, and the music was also tweaked a little bit to do the same, and just that's it. It doesn't really matter what system you play the game on. It's pretty much the same across the board. So, they were just, this game got released in late 1992, and THQ was really just hoping to capitalize upon the Christmas rush, because, like I said, like the third book, which is the third book of the book, which is game shares, had also just been released. So they're trying to capitalize on the ongoing popularity about Waldo at the time period.
Yep.
So, for what this game is, it's fine. I think this is a game. There really is no reason to play this game unless you're like unless you're actually like a Waldo fan. Then then of course you can sit down and have some fun with this game, because it's like a new way to find Waldo.
Yeah.
For sure. So, but it's like, I feel bad for anybody who spent like full price to get this game back when it released, because this is definitely. You've heard stories, Joe, like I have. It never happened to me, thank God. But I'm sure you've heard stories about kids getting games for Christmas, and then sitting down and being done with the game like a half an hour, like an hour later.
Yeah.
So it's like, especially those days as a kid, when you're lucky enough to get like 2 or 3 games a year, probably. Yeah. That was crushing. So I feel bad for anybody who got this game when it was new, who paid full price for it, and this is their only game for the holiday, because it's like, this will not last you very long at all. And I don't blame the parents, because but it's also like, you can get the same experience, if not longer experience, spend the I don't know how much the books were, $10-15 probably.
Yeah, right.
Like for a book, then the $40-50, however much this game was new, you definitely get more experience. You get more quote unquote fun out of doing the book as opposed to like the video game. So it's competent. It definitely is better than the NES game, the NES game for sure, the original NES game. And and like I said before, if you want more Waldo, this is a great way to do it.
Yep.
But this is also a great weekend, a great weekend rental game.
Yes.
Or you can find the game. If you found the game like a GameStop or Funko Land or whatever back in the day, of like for like $5-10 used, then you definitely that's a fair price for it, I think. Yeah. So, it's just like, again, this is one of those games where I'm like, okay, it's a fine game, but why was it made? Because you're just like, I know they're trying to capitalize upon the popularity of Waldo this time period, because Waldo was very hot in the early 90s. But it's also just like, again, you get much better experience for cheaper by buying one of the books instead.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's really like a limitation of the cart size. Because I feel like,
had more than like 5 worlds, that'd be a different story. Because nowadays, let me check here real quickly, see about like the newest game. But Fantastic Journey of 2009. How many worlds did that have? Doesn't say. Well, I'm sure it had a lot more worlds on it. Yeah. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, I would think that there would have been more than just 5 puzzles. You know what I mean? And, I'm not saying they recreate the entire book for this game, but, you figure the book itself, you're getting at least 7, maybe 8, maybe 10, because they're double page puzzles. I could see, them maybe cutting it down because of that also, but I would think that if you're gonna be charging $50, that you would at least want to get every puzzle that was in the book that this is based on. You know what I mean? I don't know. I was very disappointed. Like, here we are, 20 years later, 30 years later, and I'm upset because the game is over in 7 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, Like it's not because it's a good game, because yeah, it is a good game, but it's like I'm thinking back, like some parent or some kid saved up their allowance, mowed a bunch of yards or shoveled a bunch of sidewalks to pick up the Great Waldo search, and then almost as soon as they turned the game on, it was over and done with.
Yeah.
There's that.
Like I said,
that child in me who's pissed off because of that. But I mean, it is like, and that's the thing. Like as an adult, I'm sitting here like, okay, well, maybe there were limitations or whatever. But it's like, you're the one who does the research for the show. I don't think that is anything that's surprising to any of our listeners. But like, I still look and I still try to get some information and whatnot, and I couldn't even find anything that stated there were limitations or was like, oh, they, this is a rush job, so they only had a few months to get it together. That's why we got only 5 stages. Like, just nothing. So yeah, I feel like there's more to the story that we unfortunately don't know, and we'll probably never know because no one is going to try to track these people down and interview them and get those answers. But yeah,
my best guess is this game fell into the same limitations that many games do. Small developer, not experienced, rushed development cycle because they wanted to get it out for Christmas.
Right.
That's my best guess.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly what I was thinking.
THQ wanted the game quickly. They didn't want to spend a lot of money on it. So they hired this small, relatively brand new developers, and just said, "Hey, here you go, have it done by Christmas."
Yeah,
so, and you get what you pay for oftentimes.
And anybody who is sitting here, talking out loud to us, because I do that occasionally when I listen to podcasts as well. Anyone who's sitting at home and saying, "Yeah, well, they gave you a normal and an expert mode, so technically it's 10 levels." No. The placement of the items is the same whether you play normal or expert. So, like I said, no replay value.
So to be more specific, because to be fair, we really didn't really didn't say too much about this, but the major difference between them. The major between them is just the fact that they it has to do with the I'm not sure. I thought I had written it down, Joe. It's pretty much a magnifying glass, right?
Yeah, it's the size of the viewing box that you're using to find it. That is the only difference. If you remember where it was when you played normal mode, you can take the half-size magnifying glass that you now have and still find Waldo and all the scrolls and everything else. Like, it's, I don't know. It's just, like I said, this is going to be one of those things that's going to keep poking at me.
Yeah. Right. So, anyway, so for what it is, the game's fine. It's definitely better than the NES. It's definitely better than the original NES game, but we both can agree on that.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
So I mean, that is what it is. So
yeah, and before we get into pricing and whatnot, I just want to say, like, final thoughts. Like, it's hard for me to recommend this game as far as buying it for the physical system, unless you're collecting, which we say that caveat all the time. But spoiler, this game goes for like $20 on the at the most, but that's about average.
Into it,
So I mean, is it worth $20? No, I'm sorry, it's not. But emulation, absolutely. If you can fire this up in your emulator, it's 10 minutes of your time. Like I said, playthroughs are 7 minutes. First time coming to it, it might take you 10. That's not a lie. That's not an over-exaggeration. That is fact. So, I just wanted to get that out of the way. I recommend it, but not if you're, not a physical copy.
Right. So yeah, and actually, Joey, you may be surprised to find out that as easy as the game already is, there are ways to make the game like even easier for you if you want to. For example, during gameplay, if you plug in controller 2, press hold A. The magnifying glass will automatically move to Waldo's current location. If he's already been but if you've already been found, then the glass will move to the scroll instead.
Right.
And you can also on control 2, if you press the B button instead, it basically breaks the clock and stops time.
Okay.
So, you can make the game even easier if you want to. So, probably debugging commands that were left in the game, testing, make sure it worked and whatnot. So, I don't know how well this game sold, but I'm thinking it probably didn't sell that well, and/or had a very small print run. Probably just needs a print run, because there's not many copies of this game available online. This is actually one of the more scarcest games that we've actually covered in the podcast for a while. So the only reason prices are cheap as they are, as Joe already alluded to, is because of the fact that nobody wants the game pretty much. Right. So, as me doing research on this last week for copies located in North America, there were a whole 7 copies available online. With only 3 copies of the game had recently sold in North America. 2 card onlys, 1 CIB. So you can find it. Just don't expect to find just don't expect to have a large selection. And you're probably gonna have to set up the price that the price the buyer is asking for.
Yeah.
But luckily, like I said, nobody really wants the game. It seems like so, unless you're a collector. Nobody else probably cares about the fact this game can be hard to find and or pretty cheap to obtain. Yep. But anyway, the card only prices for shipping, these prices for shipping, I found the eBay ones sold $15 and $17. The CIB one, even the CIB one that wasn't that bad, $50. So, like I said, definitely a very reasonably priced Super NES game considering how rare it seems to be. But maybe rare is the wrong word. Uncommon, I think, is probably a better descriptor for it. Which, I can only assume is because the game didn't sell very well. A lot of people may have realized this is stupid to play in video game format, and they bought it, or there's one initial print run and that was it. Yeah. So, kind of my best guesses as to that. But if you are a collector, not that hard to get for your collection at least. Yeah. So, but anyway, that's the game. Is it a bad game? No, I don't think so. I think for it plays well, it looks well, it sounds great. Controls fine. It does. It does what the game was set out to do. It allows you to have a Where's Waldo experience in video game format. Yep. But the problems are just as everything else. The problems are like everything else we said in this podcast. Limited world, limited playability, sluggish controllers, et cetera. But so it's like. It's programmed well. It plays fine. It's just not the best game out there. So, no, definitely not a bad game at all. And if this game had ended up staying in our bad game special podcast, I'm sure I would have said the same thing. The same thing about it.
Yeah, we probably would have given this a pass and actually said that it didn't belong on the list. In all honesty,
exactly. So So. But all right, so that's it for this podcast. As always, we always appreciate everybody listening to the podcast. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, suggestions, feel free to either email me directly at the SCSpodcast@yahoo.com, or you can also find us on the Facebook group. Joe, how about yourself?
You can find me on Facebook, very public Facebook, not family friendly. Also, you can hit me up on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at JOESUX30. And I'm excited for our next game because
Yes.
NHL 94. We're in
Yes.
hockey season.
We timed this one specifically for release during hockey season.
Yep.
So because hockey started last month, so I'm a lifelong Bruins fan. So and a lot of people. There have been many hockey games made over the years. NHL 94 is still considered by a lot of folks to be one of the, if not the best hockey game ever made. So
Hell, even
we'll get into
EA
it.
says that because they keep releasing NHL 94 Legacy Edition on the new consoles.
That's true, yeah.
So
it's also been. I know at least once, maybe more times, NHL 94 has also been hidden. Has also been included as a bonus feature on several other hockey games released over the years. So yeah, you're right. They themselves acknowledge how popular the game is.
Exactly.
So it's like with Tecmo Bowl. They keep making a roster for it every year.
Yep.
So NHL 94 is the same way. So So we'll get into it. Get into it big time next time.
Yep.
So anyway, as always, we appreciate everybody for listening to the podcast. Thank you for giving us some of your time today. Everybody, stay safe, be well. Catch you again later.
Bye.
Take care, all.
Nintendo controls 80% of the video market. But no matter how you play the game, or which game you play, things definitely have come a long way since Pac-Man.
Now you're playing with power. Super power.